Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Zone 3334 Quarterly Directors All-Call. I'm excited to have all of you here today. We have a lot going on in Rotary and in our zones, but we should not end up taking the whole hour. We'll probably run about 40 minutes or so. First thing I would like to talk to you about is an update on our strategic plan. As you know, we've started rolling out the strategic plan. There has been a flurry of emails that I've seen from club and district leaders and district governors that they have the strategic plan in hand, but we're not rolling out the entire thing at this time. There is a large amount of information that has come out, but to push it all out to the clubs and districts at one time would just overwhelm them. So we are rolling the plan out now. The strategic plan applies to all clubs, all districts, and RI itself. The tactics of the plan are purely organizational, so that each club and each district needs to translate the priorities to make sure it makes sense to their culture and to their customs and situations in the clubs. There is no Rotary police. I've said a number of times. Kim Waters says if there was, I would have been thrown out of Rotary a long time ago. But we need to start implementing this plan, help it, especially in the membership areas and the public image areas, help them to assess what is good for them. There is no cookie cutter approach. Geography, languages, regions, each club and district must move forward with the four priorities the way they see them to work. The four priorities are: number one, expand our reach. That's new clubs, new models, more participation at all levels, including beneficiaries. We are in a pilot program now with a non-club type member. We're going to be looking in August as the Elevate Rotaract Task Force comes together at the end of August about new ways of membership that we can incorporate Rotaractors. But the first phase is expanding our reach, growing Rotary through expanding our reach. The second way is to enhance participant engagement. I've been saying for a long time that this revolving door that we've had for 25 years is a lack of engagement. Our surveys, our studies say that people are coming in. We're getting 120,000 members a year, but we're losing about that much because we're not, and the members that we're losing are generally 3 years and less, not that they have expired, we're not engaged after the first 3 years. Delivered on our own promise, we've got to do that. Revitalize weaker clubs, and weaker clubs that can't be revitalized, look at satellite clubs, alternative meeting formats, and other things that are attractive to clubs. The third level is increase our impact. That's where the RPICs come into play, especially. Measuring impact, not just the output, but the best ways to attract new members, new donors to the foundation, and new partners. We're actively adding partners to the Rotary International. We talked last quarter about the addition of the addition of Toastmasters International as a strategic partner and what they're going to be doing for us. So we've got to increase our impact and how we get out there and how we engage those members. The fourth way is to increase our ability to adapt. Flatten the organization, flatten governments, look for ways to increase diversity in our membership, and get rid of program ideas and procedures that are outdated or redundant. You may recall that some months ago I told you the board last year, one of our first things was to address the efficiency of our organization. We had 67 committees when I went my first day on the board last year. That is just absolutely unbelievable. We took steps like we've reduced the number of committees to almost half now. We've asked that instead of in-person meetings, they do them on Zoom calls like this one, or they do go-to-meeting type calls or telephone calls to make it more efficient. The board this last year also passed a resolution into the Code of Policy that any committee that is going to have a life or a lifespan exceeding that Rotary year has to have a set sunset date so that it will sunset. And also, just break for a second. If you have a question and go along, and you want me to pause about something, don't hesitate at all to go into the chat window and just click on me and send me any other question. Because I can't see all of you on the screen, I just see part of you. So if you have a question, feel free to stop me by doing that. So as we go back and we talk about the strategic plan and what is out now and what will be coming out, new info on the strategic plan will be occurring on a regular basis at Rotary.org and on all Rotary social media channels, especially Rotary International on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. The big part of the strategic plan now is we don't want anybody to get overwhelmed with it. We want you to take the framework that Stephanie is, you may or may not be aware, has been the chair of the strategic plan committee on going through this whole process. So I really wish that she was here to have given this update today, because there's nobody on the planet that can talk more about the strategic plan than your director, Stephanie. The second item that I'd like to chat about is the 10 million meal update. It is a major emphasis for us, and it is getting some really good traction. We now are close to 150 clubs who have gone to the Zones 33-34 website and signed up, formally enlisted. What that means when you sign up is that one of the 37 food banks in the Zones 33 and 34, that gives them permission to contact your clubs and get them involved and get them going with things that need to be done to help support those food banks. It's not just about packing meals. That can be a big facet of it if you want it in your district and your clubs, and I know all the coordinators are pushing it. Alex and others have great things going on from the coordinator level. I'm seeing a lot of activity on Facebook and LinkedIn about what clubs are doing. We are well down the road in actuality on making our 10 million meal mark. We are way not down the road on getting it recorded. There are several million meal hours. If you go to the website and look in the toolbox, everything is quantified. An hour of time, an hour of a pound of food, a meal package, all of that is quantified so that you can take that, convert it, and your clubs go to Rotary Club Central and put it in as work. In the identifier field, you just put 10 million meals, 10 million challenge. I don't care what it is that identifies it, and we can pick it up from that. But we have several, from my own personal tracking of things on social media, we have several million meal equivalents that are posted on Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter or Instagram that have been completed, but they're not on Rotary Club Central now. So the big push that Stephanie and I and Peter need is you're working to clubs and the topic of the 10 million meal challenge comes up. We need you to work diligently to get that information out there. I'm communicating with the governors and the governors-elect, but we've got to get this tracking done or we're going to miss the mark, when in fact we should easily hit the mark. Next topic is the Rotary Foundation. Everybody turn your mics on and say, wahoo. Just kidding.
Wahoo.
How about some enthusiastic wahoos? Because here's what you have to wahoo about. The Zones 33 and 34, no different than any other year, except you all have kicked it up yet one more notch. Let's go to Zone 34. Annual fund, 4th in the world, 5.6 million. The Polio Plus Fund, 2nd in the world, 3.2 million. Total giving, Zone 34, 3rd in the world, over $10 million raised for the Rotary Foundation. And I know that I'm going to hear something from somebody about the numbers not being out, but that Polio Plus number came from staff, Rocky. I didn't make it up, okay? Zone 33. 3rd in the world with the annual fund. Woo-hoo! 2nd in the world for Polio Plus. Woo-hoo! Yeah, wahoo. And also 4th in the world in total giving at $9.7 million. That is a total of $20 million from zones 33, 34 this last year.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking
Right,
about.
tell it now.
Good.
Spread the word.
These numbers are unaudited. There may be a few dollars that drifted in for the final reporting, but these are official numbers that have been sent out by the annual fund officer, regardless of what Robert Hall on the EPNC is telling you. These numbers came from staff, and I can give you the email if you got it. But at any rate, if you take the third and the fourth district zones in the world for contributions to the Rotary Foundation, you just took out one of them. So that means we're either number 2 or 3 in the whole world. Collectively, we are second or third, depending on whether it's supposed to, we're paired zones or not. And that to me is just, that is awesome. You all stepped it up a notch this year, and Stephanie and Peter and I really appreciate it. The next topic I would like to talk to you about is the Leadership Summit. You're going to be probably hearing around from governors about the emerging leaders. We are having the Emerging Leaders Summit again this year. If you hear a governor or somebody ask you, an emerging leader needs to be a past club president, and each district is initially offered up to 4 emerging leaders. Now, last year we had some districts that didn't do that, and we had some districts that wanted two more. So we bartered off with districts, and they released and that type of thing. But it depends upon the district. I've seen it from an emerging leader who represents great future Rotary leadership, comes and pays his or her own freight 100%. And we've had other districts that paid partial, either the room or the travel, one or the other. And then we had a few districts that said, we're sending our 4 and we're paying the freight. Depends upon the finances of the district, but it's important that we do continue this emerging leaders. This year's emerging leaders was not necessarily a function of them having attended the Emerging Leaders Summit in Norfolk. We had like 13 this year, people that were at the Emerging Leaders Summit in Norfolk in November, just within a month or two, had the interviews and became governors designate for their districts. When Robert Hall had them a couple of years during his term as director, we had 12 to 13. Each of those teams within the 3-year period became district governors. It's a great training program, great training ground, great exposure mechanism, and Team Atlanta is planning an awesome Emerging Leaders Summit at our summit in Atlanta. I would encourage you to go ahead as soon as you found out from your training cadre, if and when they want you to come to Atlanta early, I would encourage you to go ahead and register for the summit and book your room. The response on both has been very brisk. I don't know how much we will exceed Norfolk last year. We had 125 or so extra people that showed up in Norfolk over each of the prior 2 years. But I would expect that we will probably push 500 at the summit in Atlanta. And if we run out of room, we've got to renegotiate more rooms. So I encourage you, as soon as you can find out whether you're needed there early or not, make your reservation and make your room, your registration and your room reservation. A couple of weeks ago, you should have received an email about the 1920 zone directory. Phil and Karen Morris are just about ready to go to print with that. I would encourage you to log into DATDB, make sure your information is correct in DATDB, because we pull that information directly out of that. If it is not correct, go in and make the changes, and then shoot either me or Phil and Karen an email that you've made changes, and they'll make sure it's updated for the final printing, which will be in about 3 weeks. Next area is board highlights of what happened at our June and July board meetings. The June board meeting is usually a lot less business because it's the end of an era and the beginning of a new era. There were several things that were important that were done, though, that I'd like to share with you. First of all, we approved a budget of $112 million for the fiscal year 1920. The RI bylaws require that our budget is balanced at least, and this year we have actually planned for a surplus. We have budgeted a surplus of about $3.3 million in our budget, which is exciting. That will provide for even more capital expenditures if we generate that surplus. I think you all know by now, but the vice president and treasurer were elected for the current year. We're almost a month through the year. Can you believe that? Yinka Balboa from Africa was named as the vice president, and yours truly is serving as your treasurer this year. So we're getting some exposure to the things that we haven't seen before, or seen a little bit about, in serving as your treasurer. Subsequent to the Council on Legislation 19-72, which admitted the Rotaract clubs into the Rotary membership as of July 1, President Mark named a Elevate Rotaract Task Force to address things that we need to address about bringing Rotaract effectively into Rotary. Things like committees, board representation, possibilities, dues, how they access programs, how they can access or not, or how they would access foundation activities and grants and that type of thing. That committee meets the first time the last week in August in Evanston, and I will be chairing that committee that task force, not a committee, that task force for Rotary in elevating Rotaract. Barry Rassin will be the vice chair of that committee. We have a board liaison member on it, a number of Rotaractors on that committee, and a couple of other Rotarians. So there'll be about a dozen people coming together with staff to address these issues, make recommendations to the board of directors for their October meeting, how we can really get going with the Rotaract being a part of our organization. There are some pending appointments that are out there. I hope that either I've gotten in touch with you or somebody has gotten in touch with you. A couple of them are public. 3 of them won't be announced for 2021 until the end of the month, but the word is on the street, so I wanted to hear it from Stephanie and myself. And if you hadn't already had it, first of all, we have 2 returnees to the International Assembly in San Diego in the January. Mary Burrs from Pennsylvania will be going back her 2nd year as an International Assembly Training Cadre member. And Harash Ramdamchani will be going back from Jamaica in Zone 34 for his 2nd year. So there are only a couple of dozen trainers in the world. So to have 34 zones and we have 2, 1 from each zone is quite an honor for us. The announcements will be made probably within about the next 2 weeks formally, but as I said, the word is out. It just hasn't come out from Rotary International yet. In Zone 33, Mike Conrad, we're going to hate it, Mike. We'll find something else for you to do, but Mike's finishing up his 3rd year and as an EMGA, and Chuck Arneson, who I think may be on the call today with us, will be starting in 2021 as the EMGA over in Zone 33. In Zone 34, Sheila, I don't know what we're gonna do with you. We've got to find something else for you too, young lady. We appreciate all that you've done for us, but she's finishing up her 3rd year. And Marshall Butler, who Sheila's been training for the last year or 2 now, she's shaking her head, yeah, will be assuming the role of the RPIC, Public Image Coordinator, beginning July 1 of 20. And then over in, also in 34, Ivan and I worked together for a couple of years, and then Ivan has served as admirably as our Regional Reality Foundation Coordinator this past 3 years, and beginning July 1 of 2020, Roger Champion from over in the Tallahassee area of Florida will be succeeding Ivan. I don't know. I guess I talk a little bit faster than it does when it has Stephanie and myself. Those are the items that we had to talk to you that I want to make sure we got out, I'll open it up and say, do have a couple of questions. Can the emerging leader be from a Rotaract club? Most definitely an emerging leader can be a Rotaract club. I'd love to see a lot of Rotaractors there. That is a very strong way to involve a Rotaractor in Rotary and get them involved. So the answer is yes on Rotaract emerging leaders. I don't know, did I talk too fast or did this just go way too fast? Any questions from anyone?
You moved us along.
The new, I have a question, the revised 2019 club bylaws, when will they be available? I'm told that they should be available and both the, not just the bylaws, but the manual of procedure, which includes the bylaws but goes further, and the separately published code of policy should be available and out unless the creeks rise, as they say in the South, by mid-September. You should have those made available to you.
The bylaws are out.
Okay, I've not seen them, but the whole manual of procedure changes should be out by the middle of September. Take some revisions and
when did you see the bylaws? Because I checked a couple of days ago online and they were still the 2016 bylaws.
I saw them about 2 weeks ago and sent them to a president nominee who had asked me about them. Somebody I'd met at PET.
Are you sure they're the 2019 ones?
I'd have to go back and look, but I'm relatively sure.
Yeah, because last time I looked, they were still not there. The constitution for revised constitution for clubs for 2019 was up there, but not the bylaws.
So, Patrick, I'm not trying to take issue with you either, but I think I'm on Sheila's side of the fence with that one because there were a lot of modifications. If you do see that they're the 29th, please shoot.
Yeah, I'll check again.
2019, please shoot something out to all of us.
Okay.
I do want to mention Nancy Barbie mentioned something that I really didn't have on the agenda, but it is very important and you should know about it. Last year, we took a different stance about GATS and also incorporating the Emerging Leaders Summit in with it. And that's that we had, for the training cadre, we started, everything that happened during the summit in Atlanta was a production like the International Assembly or the International Convention. The program chair last year had a Zoom meeting with every participant, including guest speakers, before we got to Norfolk. We had a few bugs here and there, but we managed to take the fly swatter to them, I hope, and put a reasonable event in place for you. Excuse me. We're taking that to another level this year. This past year, the GETS training cadre had a WhatsApp thread with all of the classes, and they sent information out. This year, it's a lot more intense. The GETS training cadre is having Zoom meetings with all of their class. Several, not just sending out workbooks and talking about them and to them about it on the WhatsApp, but a lot more intense on Zoom meetings so that there's a equally as we can get it understanding when we get to Atlanta for the GETS. The same way with the training cadre. This past year, we stepped the training cadre up a notch. If you were asked by Team Atlanta to be part of the training cadre, then you also made a commitment that you would either go to Greensboro for the Zone 33 team training or to Jacksonville for the Zone 34 team training. And there was a separate session of Train the Trainer that was conducted for those people. We're trying to put everybody on as a positive and level playing field as we can so that we put a quality production on. The training cadres themselves, or amongst themselves, are having regular Zoom meetings already to face-to-face discuss their agendas for their sessions and to practice their sessions, just like a training cadre member would be in San Diego, soon to be Florida, for the International Assembly. So we're trying to really pump that up and make it a positive experience. One issue that we have had over the last 2 or 3 years, and 4 or 5 years, and it gets more intense each year, is the level of participation in the governor's-elect spouse. We fully expect and understand that, but we're working on ways that we can turn that course around, because we have governors-elect partners that are missing an opportunity just because they didn't get anything that excited them. So we're trying to reach out to those and make them, we'll make them more interested in coming. And a good example just noted to me is that the foundation team, that's Nancy, Ivan, Rocky, Chuck, I don't know, Mike and Bob may be involved in that, I'm not sure, but their first Zoom meeting is actually at 6:30 tonight with the DGEs. So a lot of what they would have normally needed to be there for a couple of days early and have that expense, we'll have that training done with them when we get to Atlanta in November. So we're trying to use technology and communication to make it a more rewarding experience. And bring, if you're not on mute, please mute for a minute. Make it a rewarding experience before they get there. Anybody else? Any other questions?
David?
Yes, Rocky.
You mentioned a little while ago that Mike is finishing his 3-year commitment. He is, and he's done a marvelous job. But now he's going to be able to devote full time to his major job, which is being the Polio Plus chair in his district. And I'm looking for them to be #1. So I know he'll do that now.
Well,
Patrick left, so Mike's got to fill the void.
so I already noted that for Sheila and Mike, we got to find something there to re-up them in. And you just showed me how efficient, even though I already knew it, how efficient these coordinator teams are in 33 and 34. Rocky, you've already got him at work. Mike, congratulations, man.
Well, now listen, I got 1 more year as EMGA, so you got, but I'm also my polio chair this year as well. So we'll get it both done.
Congratulations.
And a lot of the major gifts will be to polio because of his current assignment.
I was saving this last thing to, in case somebody was not listening. Somebody wanted to play this video and they didn't listen to all the way in. There's good news and bad news about membership. We don't know the final number yet on it. It will be another couple of weeks probably before we know that. But in the Rotary world of North America, 33 and 34 have been basically the only 2 zones that have shown either no decline or some modest increase. We went into when the numbers went into blackout, 33 had dropped down just from a good growth to just a modest, like 10 member loss. We think that will hold. We think that will stick. 34 still had a relatively decent 50 or 60 member growth. So if they do lose members, it's in the final days. But collectively, these 2 zones, not just the foundation work that you all are collectively number 2 or 3 in the world, but the membership numbers in these 2 zones is also a model for what's happening in North America, at least. And I got to say this to all of you because you're the ones that do it. People were asking me this spring, how do I get involved in this zone team training, Rotary sees what you all are doing in these 2 zones with these team trainings. That is, I think, Rotary thinks, a reason that we have held our own and are grown each year. And I just applaud all of you, not only for what you're doing every day of the year, but especially what I saw at these zone team training events. I guess I've been the last 4 or 5 years now that I've attended that event as an RRFC, that is your director-elect, and now your director. It is admirable. Y'all keep it up. Keep the camaraderie between the 2 zones going and the competitiveness too, because it's a healthy one. But I'm just very deeply humbled and grateful for what all of you do every day. It is just absolutely inspiring for me to walk into a boardroom and tell people that I come from 33 and 34, because it's good stuff going on in 33 and 4, and I thank you for it. Any other questions of anybody? We're about 30 minutes into, so we'll go once, twice, and 3 times. Thank you all so much. hope you have a great summer, and we will send out a doodle poll very soon to set our October meeting. And in the meantime, I hope to see every one of you. But if not, please don't hesitate to call on me. A lot of you do, but if you're not, please call on Stephanie, myself, and Director-elect Peter. We're there to be your backstop and be your support, anything we can do. Anybody else have anything before we close?
All good.
Okay. Thank you, y'all. Men and women
Thank
of Rotary, I appreciate
Thank
you.
you.
Stephanie,
And thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.